Hey guys! Psychraptor here today. I am back for another episode of Anime vs. Reality. I've got the helmet back on again, and that means I'm finally going to be finishing Durarara today. I'm already getting a bit exhausted in this. All I have to do is just get through today's episodes, which is for Ketsu, which is the final part of Durarara X2. So let's get started. As we pick up from from Celty getting home to everyone being in Shinra's apartment, and Celty is confused by the presence of everyone. And Shinra reveals that everyone started showing up because of something that's going on in Ikebukuro. And Shizuo is being questioned over attacking Earthworm, but he says he didn't do it, with the police not believing him. And the police say they can't have Shizuo in Ikebukuro for a while, revealing they're controlled by Sayaka and threatening to frame Shizuo for beating them up. Shizuo is about to beat up the Sayaka-controlled police when Konosuke charges in to tell Celty to turn on her lights. He also saves Shizuo from their framing plan by saying he heard their plan outside the room. Seeing Konosuke being himself also saves the police from death, since Shizuo knows there's normal people too. Aoba and the Blue Squares return to the hideout where Mikado asks if they are okay. They're upset Aoba did nothing and didn't get injured, but Mikado quickly stops their infighting. And Mikado asks about the person that's there to visit him, and it's Hiroto. They're on orders from Janai. Meanwhile, Ran talks with Shu and about Kohei's hit and run, and how they don't know who was behind it, as well as Shiki thinking that Sloane can hold Izia in check. A lot of stuff is going on. Back at Shinra's place, Amelia came over to clean the place, and that's when everyone else started showing up. Walker arrived first, wanting to hide at Shinra's as a secret base, followed by Seiji and Mika seeking refuge, most likely from Nami. Then his dad and Eagle came over, and Shinra got talking to them when Celty got home. Celty decides to go around and ask everyone why they're here, starting with Seiji and Mika, only to get screamed at by Nami for touching Seiji. It's like, yeah. Why is Nami here? In the chat room, Maru and Kurori note how the chat room is always empty every time something weird happens in Ikebukuro. Aoba also joins the chat room to talk to Maru and Kurori privately, telling them to stay away from Ikebukuro for a while, adding that Izia might get involved. Kurori asks Aoba if he's the one behind Kohei's hit and run, considering Aoba's involvement in the soon-to-be war in Ikebukuro. Sloane carries Izia to the car when two Dragon Zombie members try to get Izia from Sloane. Instead, Sloane uses Izia as a heavyweight to stop them and beats them up, all while Kine watches. Back during Nami's capture, Igor, disguised as Shingen, saves Nami from the Nebula Company, along with Ejiro also showing up looking like Shingen to kick Satoru into the wall. Shingen says he promised to beat up Satoru with everything he's got, questioning why Satoru's actions have not been reported to Nebula. Two smoke bombs are thrown in the area to hide the escape of Shingen, Igor, and Jiro, proving the benefits of gas masks. Shingen would have normally done a lawsuit, but he didn't want Celty and Shinra to have any brushes with the law. Walker exposes that Shingen actually did this by finding the news report, and Igor claims responsibility for the smoke bomb, reintroducing himself to Celty as a friend of Simon. Walker thinks Shingen is cool with his white gas mask on, meaning there's a possibility that Shingen is a girl underneath the mask to him. Shingen does mention that he and Shinra's mother took fun in swapping clothes, making Celty ask Shinra if he's okay with his dad blotting out his fetishes. Oh my gosh. Mika offers the idea to engage in clothes swapping too, which Seiji finds creepy, which is probably as creepy as being mogged by his sister and his girlfriend. Seiji reveals that Nami reveals that Seiji used to wear her hand-me-down pajamas, and vice versa, adding to the creepiness. No. Celty asks Nami about her head, and only confirms that Izia has Celty's head after Seiji wants to know about it, too. She reveals that Izia sometimes played catch with Celty's head, like it's a ball, which annoys Celty and Seiji. All throughout this, Nami is dedicated to calling out Celty's hypocrisy about her living with Shinra despite his involvement in what happened to her head. But Celty says he has been getting his due punishment. Shingen is curious as to what Celty and Shinra get up to at night. Why? And Walker is confused by what's going on. When Celty explains it, Walker sees it as her body dating Shinra and her dead daddy Izia, which isn't helped by Nami's lies confirming what Walker is saying. She uses that to try to make Seiji forget about Celty's head, and that upsets Celty. Shinra doesn't help the situation when he explains that Izia loves observing humans, saying that Izia is most likely treating her head as a ball or a phase. What? A human head phase is just not on the list of things I would think for a phase. Seiji is unswayed by Nami's explanation about Celty's head, making her bitter but still attracted to him. Mika promises to smile upon Seiji every day, and Nami wishes Mika would die 9 times and be made into a shamisen. Okay, so she's calling her a cat. But Mika would be happy as long as she can make beautiful sounds. Walker offers Seiji some lurid doujinshi about dollar hands and demons with expanding necks. Is that Shinji Ito that he's talked about? Or Sushi Ito? Which also interests Shinra. Celty goes in on Shinra for his interest in recreating stuff in Walker's doujinshi with her, and attacks him, before doting on him for accidentally hurting him. Shingen calls Celty weak when she's in front of Shinra, saying that he'll be adding it to his non-human report. Walker compares it to a vampire who's lived for centuries in the body of a little girl. That reminds me of Shiki. Or a tsundere wolf girl. I don't think the only wolf girl I've seen in anime, and she's not even tsundere, is Hollow from Spice and Wolf. Shingen explains that he's seen reports on aging Edo vamps that are into video games and starving type werewolves disguised as young girls. What? Walker wants to meet a vamp girl in order to use her powers to find whoever is behind Kyohei's hidden run. And Celty explodes in anger, stopping all the drama in the house. And leaving me absolutely confused about what I'm reading. Sloane almost gets Izia to Junai number 12's office, but is stopped by Mikage asking if he's revealing himself as the Awakusu spy he is. He says she was close, throwing Izia at her, and she kicks him right back into Sloane's arms. Mikage tries to axe kick Sloane, and he tries to escape, only to be taken down by Kine's taser. They figured out that Sloane was being controlled by a psycho wielder, but they think Haruna is betraying Izia. Kine figured out Izia was faking being knocked out when he gritted his teeth from Kage's kick. Izia explains that the psycho wielder is Kasane, although I'm going to stop with the quotation marks on Kasane, and decides to wait for Kasane to arrive. Back at Shinra's place, Celty is finally piecing everyone's stories together. How Walker and Saburo were attacked while searching for who ran over Kyohei. Naomi was saved from her uncle by Shingen and Igor, and Seiji and Mika realized they were going to be taken hostage, and now they're all at Shinra's place. Mika reveals she had wiretapped Igiri Pharmaceuticals and heard someone talking about the plan to kidnap them. Celty realizes Izia's a bigger jerk than she thought, wanting to get her head back without touching it and heading it over to Shingen for safekeeping, wanting to be with Shinra until he breathes his last breath. Celty asks Nami what Izia's plan is, but she doesn't say anything and reveals that Shingen also knew Izia had her head. She wonders if she should tell everyone what's going on between the Yellow Scarves and the Dollars. And Shinra offers up the idea that everyone in the room teams up like a mutual aid organization to keep each other informed on information, wanting Celty to be the leader. He figures that Celty gets caught up in most of the situations and wants things to go smoother for her by her having as much info as she needs. Fair enough, that does make sense. Let's get into episode 2, where Shingen provides narration about women and how this story is all about them, starting with Ari and the secrets she can't contain. She's returned to the hospital to check up on Erika and Kyohei, with Erika saying Kyohei might wake up soon. Ari apologizes to Erika because she's just there to see her and tell her everything about herself, which Erika misconstrues as a Yuri confession. That's when Chikage shows up to see how Kyohei is doing and reintroduces himself to Ari. Erika lets him know about that he won't be able to see Kyohei because of the hospital's no visitors rule. Her kindness in calling Chikage Rochi immediately makes her an instant friend in his womanizing eyes. Learning that Kyohei was in a hit and run, he leaves the hospital, asking Erika to message him when Kyohei wakes up and plans to go to Ninja Town with his girls. Chikage plans to get his revenge on Ikebukuro, but first he has to pay Kyohei back. Izia's plan to wait for Kasane to show up failed, wondering if she's just cautious or picked up on some danger. Mikage asks if it's dangerous to stay at the hideout, but Izia says with Saika's power, everywhere is dangerous. Kine suggests that Izaya goes to the hospital to get his head looked at since he took a blow to the back of his head. With Izaya gone, Kine warns Mikage about working with Izaya, but she knows she shouldn't. Erika already knows about Saika, asking if she really wants to talk about it openly when Izaya appears in front of them, wanting to listen in. Henri is upset by Izaya's presence, asking if he did something to Mikado and Gita, with Saika wanting her to attack Izaya. Izaya admits that he had nothing to do with Mikado and Gita lately, because he intends to mess with them in the near future. He describes their situation like they're walking across a tightrope between two cliffs, with their necks connected by another rope. Continuing with glee, Izaya talks about the reactions people would have about the situations from profiteer to antagonistic, saying he'd set fire to both ends of the rope and watch. Henri asks why he would do that, and it's just because he wants to see what they would do. She gets upset by Izaya's words, wanting to slash out at him with Saika, all while Izaya acts like he's entitled to doing anything he wants with humans. The girl he's talking about is the orange-haired girl, Manami Mamiya, that came to attack him, and Shingen talks about how she has no clue she is so loved. So, Shingen is providing the narration of the episode. Even though Manami's helping him, she can only think of ways to possibly harm him, arriving at Haruna's apartment to ask her for help. In half an hour, Manami and Haruna have a plan to harass Izaya, with both able to move unlike Henri. Henri wants to strike Izaya with Saika so badly, but she doesn't want him to have the power of Saika, while Saika says that her mum could do things she can't. Izaya says that Henri should have used Saika to cut both Mikado and Kita, and that Henri is no longer human, becoming one with Saika. He's smacked down from his goading by Erika with a piece of folded paper, just the full mum, smack down. Or the paper fan smackdown. And says that if he keeps going, she'll solder his eyes with an iron. Henri nearly collapses from the stress of the situation, but Erika calms her down by saying that's how Izaya is, even when Henri says she's going to kill Izaya. Shingen talks about how people say that women are about give and take, but sometimes their enemies are other women, like Celti and Kasane, who are yet to meet. Celti gets to Shinra's room exhausted, having dealt with everyone arguing over which room they get to sleep in, especially with Nami, Mika, and Seiji. Nami and Mika are now sleeping in Celti's room to keep an eye on each other, so they don't sneak instead into Seiji's room. Seiji has been put with Shingen and Amelia, while Saburo has the couch and Walker continues watching TV. Because he's a night owl. Shinra is worried about Celti because she acts more human than actual humans, and at some point she'll lose trust in humans and turn into a demon. Celti sees that as a fantasy, more annoyed by Shinra's decision to make her the leader of the guild, but is happy to go along with her scheme. Her first plan is to investigate Kasane and make her answer for Shinra's injuries. Even though it wasn't really Kasane, it was Janai, but that whole thing happened with Janai. Meanwhile, Kasane's first taste of freedom is to buy a bunch of cat ear headbands for herself, earning herself confused looks from everyone. Shingen reveals that Kasane and Ruri's mother a half sisters, making Ruri her half niece. Kasane was the one that sold Ruri to Janai, who trained her on how to run his business at a young age. After the original Janai passed away, Kasane created stand-ins for Janai because that's all she had. She approached Ruri all that time ago to offer her the position of an idol, or because she wants to find her own dream. Satoru calls Kasane about the disappearance of Janai and explains that he was in a car accident and has taken over the job he was put on. He warns her that Nebula might try to interfere with the job like they did yesterday. Head to a park with her freedom, sitting under the tree and pondering if she should wear her cat ears to a cat cafe or a butler cafe. The choices. Shinra and Salty talk about her conversation with Mikado and his plan to reset everything by tearing it all down, while also leaving Ari out of it. She's not a fan of his plan, seeing it as way too selfish, but Shinra loves her good heart, making her flustered. Erica sent Ari on a cat ear purchase mission, but apparently Kasane purchased them all, leaving Ari to try to find another shop. Before she can move too far, she's confronted by Haruna, who's actually looking for Takashi, but is ready to throw down with Ari. In the chat room, Kuroi and Maru... I don't know how that ended up as an N. Kuroi and Maru are talking about how to revolutionize the world through something that's been popping up on the internet in videos and photos taken by people. Celty hops on to see if Ari is in the chat room, and they'll be told to turn on the news by Kuroi, revealing that a woman's head was found in front of Ikebukuro station. Turns out that the plan Minami cooked up was to take Celty's head and give Haruna her freedom to search for Takashi. Celty collapses from the shock of seeing her head just sitting there in a bush. It's just like, my head is just sitting there. What? Everyone is surprised. Oh, this is episode 3. Everyone is surprised by the presence of a written head being tossed in the daylight. Celty faints from shock. Seiji is frozen and Mika is trying to bring him back to his senses. Aoba believes it's Mika's head until Mikado explains what happened way back in the Mika arc with her plastic surgery to be like Celty. Or to look like Celty. The blue squares notice the eyelids quivering, realizing it must be alive, while Maru and Kuroi's narration notes Mikado's calm reaction to the situation. Almost like the abnormal has become normal to him. Mikado calls Izia to confirm if he told Mizuki about him being the leader of the Dollars. But all Izia did was confirm Mizuki's suspicions. Izia then confirms he knows Mikado hasn't moved his base of operations since Mizuki's visit, asking why he's still there. Haruna leads Ari to the same park that Kasane is relaxing at with her book, and Ari mentions that Shuji has been looking for her. However, Haruna believes her search for Takashi is more important than being with her dad. Izia wants Mikado to stop what he's doing and to go back to acting like a normal high school student. Mikado fires back that Izia was the one that told him he needed to continuously evolve to escape ordinary life. He confirms that Izia did tell Kida about Mikado in the chat room as Kanra. Which, no, that didn't happen in a chat room. That was actually in person. Haruna reveals he doesn't want to kill she doesn't want to kill Anri, instead wanted to forgive her despite what she did to Takashi. She wanted to find Takashi and slash him, then have him slash her for them to mingle until they became one. What? Anri ruined that plan, but she still held onto her love for Takashi, trying to change her hatred for Anri into love for Takashi. Ever since Anri / Haruna, she has kept Anri Sayaka at bay without any help, but her and Anri Sayaka's are mingling inside of her. Haruna reveals she has taken an interest in Mikado and Kida and calls out Anri for two-timing them. Yeah, you could sort of say it's two-timing. Mikado and Kida Mikado and Izuya's call continues the topic of Izuya's action to reveal Mikado's identity, with Mikado saying he would have kept on keeping things from Kida and Anri and got swept away by the dollars. Mikado feels more guilty about having created the dollars in the first place, wanting to roll up everything and reset the dollars to the night of that first meeting. Izuya calls out the potential hypocrisy that Mikado himself might make him non-essential to the dollars, since he's turning it into his own private possession, but Mikado says he's been non-essential for a long time. Anri threatens Haruna to not touch Mikado or Kida, but that's only because of Anri Sayaka and Haruna that she sees them as precious. Haruna is glad that Anri's emotions for Mikado and Kida weren't as strong as her emotions for Takashi, because she might have split into three. She wants to work together with Anri to help each other with their romance woes, admitting she was Izuya's errand girl. Seeing her and Anri as friends, Haruna wants to learn more about Mikado and Kida. Anri asks what Izuya's plan is, but Haruna doesn't know, with her focusing more on how Anri is suppressing Sayaka at the moment. Haruna offers to take Anri Sayaka, but she declines the offer, which gives Haruna a reason to fight her. Izuya can't contain his excitement about Mikado's admission of non-essentialness, calling him a human, but that's not as a compliment. Mikado says that he's just indecisive, but Izuya is more excited by the fact that Mikado knows how to take action. He explains that it's Mikado's choice on what happens to him and where he ends up, and Mikado uses Izuya's analogy to say he wants to end up at the water's edge on a boat, so as to not be gazing at Ikebukuro anymore. And Maru's narration puts it perfectly, that Mikado wants to be the arsonist and the firefighter. Izuya believes Mikado wants to play God from his front row seat, but Mikado fires back that Izuya is describing himself. Izuya explains that the people around Mikado think that he has lost his mind or is being controlled. But he understands that Mikado doesn't fall into those beliefs because he already had when he made the dollars. Mikado asks if Izuya is going to do to the dollars what he did to the Yellow Scarves 2 years ago. Izuya is surprised Mikado figured out so much despite distancing himself from Kida, and turns out Mikado's offer to join Mikado's part and turns down Mikado's offer to join Mikado's part of the dollars. Finally getting around to the news report, Mikado asks if Izuya has seen the news and tells him to watch it. Izuya thinks that Shizuo may have broken out of prison, only to find out about Sati's head, which makes him laugh at the fact that that was Minami's move. Kasane's peaceful time with the cats gathering to her is interrupted by Haruna and Anri fighting with the psychers. Anri asks if Haruna thinks she's a human or a monster, to which she answers that Anri is a parasite, and by what Anri told her last time they fought. Thanks to Haruna's answer, she stands down and says she'll leech off Haruna, asking her to save Mikado and Kita. Anri goes to slice Anri's cheek, only to be stopped by Kasane, telling him off for scaring the cats, and saying that it's the first she's seen a mother and child try to kill each other. Attempting to strike on Kasane, Haruna's knife is stopped by Kasane's hand claw, which is one of Sayaka's original blades. As quick as Haruna's attention turns fully to Kasane, she's tangled up by metal wires and electrocuted by Kasane's electric glove. Anri is shocked by what Kasane did to Haruna and how advanced her control of Sayaka is, to which Kasane explains that Anri hasn't mastered Sayaka at all. Kasane explains that Sayaka has more than one form as a single Japanese sword. She asks Anri for a Sayaka, even though she already has one, because personal use and merchandise are different things. She sees that Anri hasn't mastered her Sayaka and that Sayaka isn't controlling her like previous owners. Kasane invites them to a nearby cafe to discuss everything further. Meanwhile, Hiroto has a meeting with someone from Junai Yodogiri, who is hiding their identity from debt collectors. The guy reveals that Junai was in a car accident, but that doesn't mean they're free from the company. He offers Hiroto a job to pilfer Junai's fortune that he's got stashed away, but Hiroto can't risk it. That's when the guy reveals he knows who ran over Kyohei and that he was the one that orchestrated the incident. He almost tells his name to Hiroto, only for Mario's narration to cut him off. Chikage confronts Kita, threatening to take over the yellow squares or have it destroyed. Kita asks, we're in episode 4. Kita asks why Chikage is gunning for them, and he explains that he thinks the Yellow Scars are potentially behind Kyohei's hit and run, since they and the Yellow Dollars are fighting, especially since Kyohei had beaten them up back during the Yellow Scars arc. Chikage owes Kyohei for saving Non, and so he wants to fight them as the obvious suspects. He mentions how there's a sub-faction purging Bad Dollars members, which Kita realizes that Mikado is a part of. Chikage adds that this group are the ones behind the bike fires to his Toromaru gang members from last spring. Kita pieces together that Chikage wants to use the Yellow Scarves to smoke out the Dollars sub-faction. Chikage explains further, saying that the sub-factions are remnants of the Blue Squares as well as former Yellow Squares. He's so confused about what's going on, so he lays it out simply and says he's acting on his own and wants to fight Kita. If Kita wins, Chikage will serve as the Yellow Scar's bodyguard. Kita accepts his challenge, making the fight 1-on-1. Both characters show unique athletic skills in the fight, with Kita jumping on a car and swinging on a pole to land a flying kick. This works in Chikage's favor though, grabbing Kita's leg and tossing him. Like full-on tossing. But Kita manages to safely roll out of serious injury and dodges Chikage's flying double kick that's able to bend metal railings. Both match each other punch for kick as the Yellow Scarves watch. Meanwhile, the three Psycho Wheelers go to a cafe at Rara Hospital, with Kasane teaching them about dissection, which is taking Sayaka and splitting it into two to make Sayaka's. Haruna asks if she can make her a blade, but Kasane says it's out of her price range. Having explained everything, Kasane asks once again if Ari would sell her Sayaka to her, preparing to pay well. With Ari and Haruna distracted, Kasane adds another random member to a Sayaka army, all while Haruna is offering to slash Kida and Mikado to make them love Ari. Kasane is indifferent, saying someone's failures on how Sayaka is used is case by case, explaining that someone slashed by Sayaka, but is never manipulated will be unaware of her curse. Oh, yeah. Ainri explains how Izia told her she's not human, and if that's true, she doesn't have the right to love anyone. Kasane says that by relinquishing Sayaka, Ainri's body would go back to being what she believes is human. Kasane transmits what she really is to Ainri and Haruna, and horrifies them with it. She's unable to explain it in biological terms, but from a social standpoint, people would call her a villain. Accepting she'll be slaughtered by something seeking justice or someone with a grudge, she's delaying that day as long as possible, just wanting to enjoy the present. Kasane doesn't put Ainri in the same group as herself, saying she should be out in the sunlight. Ainri says again that she's a parasite, to which Kasane answers that if she's leeching off others, they must be getting something from her too, changing the view into a symbiotic relationship. Which makes sense. To save Sayaka, you must either wield total control of Sayaka or relinquish yourself to her. But Ainri is trying to balance both, and it won't work. Haruna tries to encourage Ainri to attack Kasane, using the fact that the Sayaka blade she sold killed Ainri's parents. But it doesn't work because Sayaka is the reason she's alive, and not killed by her father. Kasane understands what Ainri is going through, but still leaves her phone number for Ainri just in case she changes her mind. Haruna tries to steal Kasane's Sayaka since she doesn't have any business with her, but Ainri breaks them up. Erika stumbles into the scene to say she has good news, only to get distracted by Kasane's bag of cat ears and asking if she's a cosplayer. Kasane says she has an interest, but no experience, so Erika extends an invitation to a club, telling her about all the different cosplay outfits they have. She asks if they have gothic Lolita outfits, and hands Erika her number, saying she'll be in contact in a few days. Erika's news for Ainri is that Kyohei has woken up from his coma. Back with Chikage and Kida's fight, both sides are equal in dodging and punching, but Kida knows if he's hit, he'll lose. Kida lands a punch square to Chikage's face, but he tanks it and doesn't fall over. He's like full on like One Piece character right now. Chikage jumps at Kida, who dodges and returns the favor, getting Chikage in a chokehold. As a last-ditch effort, Chikage runs and jumps off the building, landing on his back somehow, with Kida jumping off at the last second and grabbing a pole. Chikage is upset that Kida ditched him when he had the chokehold, and that's why Ran shows up to attack Kida. Kida charges at Ran, dodging his hammer strikes, landing the first punch to Ran's forehead so hard his own hand bleeds. Like, oh, that's gonna hurt. Jumping over to Shizuo's night in prison, a fellow prisoner confirms it is Shizuo and tells him not to break out of prison because the news is around right now because of Celti's head. The news is uncertain of it being Celti's head though, and they're bringing it to the prison where he and Shizuo are in. Shizuo thinks the guy is being controlled by a psycho, and he's correct, with the guy explaining that Mother wants Shizuo to cause a ruckus so that she can get Celti's head. Shizuo asks if they want to help or hinder Celti, but he says they're indifferent and could make the assault case go away. However, the plan fails when Shizuo is released because he clearly didn't assault the woman, and she dropped the case. So there goes that plan with ease. As soon as Shizuo gets out and lights a cigarette, an RPG is fired at the police station, and Verona swoops in to steal Celti's head. He believes that Izia is behind what's going on, along with getting Verona to help him. Earlier in the day, Haruna is found by Shuji, who asks her what she's been up to, with Shuji knocking her out with an injection, and a mysterious bearded character actually being Takashi, who is now obsessed with understanding Sayaka. This guy disappeared so early in the story, now he's back and crazy. Takashi explains that the control of a child of Sayaka goes to whoever / the child of Sayaka last, regardless of other factors. He prepares to stab Haruna for her own Sayaka to be able to smother her body with love. So, wait. He's obsessed with controlling her? What the... That is messed up. Meanwhile, Celti, during her faint, experiences a weird dream of multicolored hallways and holding her own head. Turns out that Walker and Shinra started circulating rumors that Celti's head is a fake to protect Celti's head from others. Celti apologizes for what happened just before, but says she was more unhinged than her, with Shinra having him sedated by Shingen, which upset Nami. So Shinra sedated her in the butt. They think Irony has shown up to chat with Celti, and Celti wonders if they should tell her about Mikado. But it's actually Kasane. Oh no. And it's a big oh no because with episode 5, Kasane's first action is to kiss Shinra to distract him from her plan to make him a member of Sayaka. Which confuses Celti. It's like, what? In response, Celti encases the room in the black void, all the while Verona narrates about what she's doing in Ikebukuro, having given into her uncontrollable urge to go after Celti. Saburo stumbles upon the literally dark scene while needing the bathroom, seeing that Celti turns finally into a shadow to attack Kasane and Shinra. This is what Kasane expected, using her Sayaka to cut a hole in the glass door and escape with Shinra like Spider-Man. Celti gives chase, launching shadowy tendrils at Kasane, which she dodges with ease. Meanwhile, Walker is losing his mind over one of his stories becoming reality, even if Kasane is older than he imagined. Mika figures out that the black mass that flew out of the apartment is Celti, and soon Shooter gives chase, with Amelia also confused by everything. It's like we went from 0 to 100 again. Verona is wondering why she took the job to steal Celti's head, wondering what Sloane would say about her actions. The news swiftly reports on Verona's attack, but says that the police have been unable to turn up evidence of her involvement. Shizuo is currently getting mocked by some kids for his bartender outfit, but instead of outright attacking them, he tells them to leave him alone. One of the kids kicks him, so in retaliation, Shizuo tosses the bike into the air along with the kid, and catching the kid so he doesn't get hurt, which scares them off. It's like, he Hitchcocked the kid. Two police officers investigate an area of the parking lot with busted cameras, just in case it's related to Verona's attack. At the same time, Celti's chase of Kasane leads to the top floor of the parking lot for a mini-fight where Kasane is unable to hit Celti. Kita and Chikage head to the Yellow Scarf's hideout following a visit to the hospital after Kita's fight with Ran. Ran reveals to Kita that he's in the dollars, saying he needs to set things straight before he meets with Mikado. About to deliver the final blow, Chikage steps in to save Kita for himself while holding one of Ran's followers in a way to ruin his eyesight. Chikage is surprised that Ran knows Kyohei and gets in the joke about Ran ruining his life. Mentioning how the cops would bust them quickly thanks to cameras, Ran explains that he disabled them himself. However, Chikage outsmarts the disabled camera's issue by hitting an alarm, making everyone scatter like ants. Well, no, it wouldn't be ants. No, they do scatter. Ryan screams about how he knows what Chikage looks like, but Chikage doesn't care, landing a double flying kick on him. Chikage then scoops Kita up and takes him to the hospital, wanting to resume their fight later. Jumping from the exact same car, Chikage takes Kita on a terrifying drop, bouncing on a lamppost as light as a feather and landing on a truck. Kita checks in on his Yellow Scarf, learning that they got away safely, and that Chikage is actually a good listener. And Chikage says he's actually a good listener. So we're gonna learn. We're getting more. This season is a lot of talking between characters and not so much the action. Celti and Kasane's chase continues all over Ikebukuro, with Kasane stopping on a random roof where she notes that Celti seems to have no consciousness, reasoning, or emotion. Meanwhile, Verona is still staring at the car she has put Celti's head in, thinking about what Sloane told her, and how she failed to kill him, only to be working with him. Kasane loses Celti by using some flash grenades while Verona thinks about how Shizuo ended up in prison. She got a job offer to steal Celti's head and ended up face to face with Shizuo before leaving. Celti searches for Kasane from her shadow form, and spotting that Shinra has been loaded into a car, she gives chase. Kasane attacks with her psychic claws, creating a giant web to catch Celti, jealous of Celti's love for Shinra. Verona wonders why Kasane is targeting Celti while driving away with Shinra and Celti's head. She misunderstands Sayaka Shinra's eyes as a kind of virus, but is correct that Celti is pursuing Shinra, eventually getting the right reason. Verona reflects on everything she has experienced in Ikebukuro, and that she's now leaving the peace she found in it. Shooter finds Shizuo, and since Celti isn't with Shooter, he realizes something is wrong. Shooter wants Shizuo to get on, but he's never ridden a horse, and he doesn't have a motorcycle license either. Using the destroyed bike from the kid, Shooter transforms into the fastest bicycle ever, taking Shizuo for a ride. It's hilarious how fast this bike goes. Like, Shizuo is so caught off guard by the speed. Anri returns to her apartment to find Saki waiting for her, and Shizuo believes Izuha is involved in the current events. we're at episode 6, and my ugh, my head's just killing me with this helmet on. Chikage narrates the Cliff Notes version of Kita's absolute rant about Mikado. Anri and Izaya being the main characters of the story. Chikage is annoyed about how pumped up Izaya seems. Oh no, Mikage is annoyed at how pumped up Izaya seems to be, despite the lack of people, and it's all because of Mikado's purging of the dollars. While talking about how weak, but also how scary Mikado is, Izaya knocks down his house of tarot cards for a pawn, before throwing the same pawn in the air and cutting it in half with a tarot card. Honestly, very impressive. That's an impressive trick shot. Izaya doesn't see Mikado as his pawn anymore, and that he could become Mikado's pawn, but he'd be fine with that. He says that Ikebukuro is one big powder keg waiting to go off, to which Mikage sarcastically suggests whose fault that is. Izaya moves to talk about his plan to get rid of all of the non-humans from Ikebukuro, which includes all Sayaka wielders, Celti, and Shizuo. Meanwhile, at Anri's apartment, Saki tells Anri that she's sort of Kita's girlfriend, knowing things would get tense between them with that information. Saki asks Anri if she's weird, but Anri calls herself the weird one. Returning Anri's question about her relationship with Kita, Anri freaks out, saying she's just friends with Kita. Saki explains she's also heard about Mikado as well, and that he's into Anri because she's adorable and well-stacked. Come on! Changing the question to focus on Mikado, Anri doesn't know how to answer because she still doesn't know how to love. Chikage recaps what Kita told him, how the whole situation started back in middle school with the gang Kita made, and currently Kita wants to punch Mikado in the face. And to achieve that, Kita restarted the yellow scarves to deal with the blue squares. In frustration of being dragged in by Kita dragging things on, Chikage headbutts him, only to realize Kita is right that he involved himself. Kita reveals he saw Mikado and Chikage talking back during the Toramaru arc, which upsets Chikage. Upset that Chikage didn't punch Mikado back then before taking it back. Chikage compares Kita and Mikado's feud to how the younger brother always tries to find a way to win against the older brother, saying that neither wants to appear weak, but in different ways. Kita is trying to become more powerful to deny he was weak, while Mikado is trying to undo things to deny the existence of Kita's weakness. Over in Mikado's hideout, Mikado is worried about Celti and if she still wants her head back. If she does want her head, will she leave Ikebukuro? Thinking about what he has, and that is similar to Celti's head to him. Okay, yeah. He thinks about his friendship with Kita and Anri. Saki and Anri's conversation continues, with Anri explaining how she's a parasite that feeds off other people, leading to her calling Kita and Mikado her saviors. Saki came ready to declare war on Anri for liking Kita, but since she doesn't, Saki says she also doesn't know how to love someone. She says that even though Anri is a parasite, it's still possible for her to love someone. And telling Anri her story of how she was a puppet for Izaya, and how he told her to fall in love with Kita. Mikado nervously bites on his nails, thinking about how he is doing all this so that he, Kita, and Anri can talk about everything. Anri wants to know Kita's backstory because the three of them promised to reveal their secret when they met up again. She doesn't want to run away because of a promise. Saki gets if Saki does get in trouble for sharing Kita's secrets, Henry wants to take part of the blame. Kita is so angry, he re-injures his hand and shouts at Chikage that he wants to see Mikado when asked. Seeing Kita's energy firing up, Chikage announces they're going to see Mikado right now, wanting Mikado's number to learn his location, saying he'll deal with the blue squares while Kita does what he needs to. Chikage says their fight ended in a draw, so he's treating Kita as an equal and wants to go do it now because something ominous is going on. In the chat room, Nami tries to reach Mikado by threatening to expose his personal information, but Mikado is more focused on their homework for summer vacation, wanting them to have time to do it. Aoba says they finished it on the first day, when a member of the Blue Squares interrupted with a message that Ran is here to see Mikado. Mikado then surprises Aoba by already knowing that Ran is Aoba's older brother and the former leader of the Blue Squares. He accepts the visit from Ran with the reason that he might be worried for Aoba. Ran has shown up with his arm in a slinging cast, and Aoba is worried that Ran is going to do something. Mikado asks if Ran is okay, to which Ran answers that he fell down some stairs. Ran is surprised that someone like Mikado is the leader of the Dollars, but Mikado corrects him, saying that the Dollars has no leader, but he is serving as the leader of the Blue Squares. He notes that Mikado hasn't been in many fights, and Mikado reaffirms Ran that even if both of Ran's arms were broken, he still lose to Ran, but Ran would lose to the Blue Squares. Even with Ran saying that Mikado believes he's strong thanks to the strength of others, Mikado still says he's weak. When Ran asks why Mikado is meeting with him, Mikado explains that he doesn't want people like Ran in the Dollars because he's afraid of those people. Ran prepares his weapon that he hid in his arm sling, but nothing happens and Ran leaves without a fight. Leaving the area, Ran gets in the car with Shu, and it seems that Ran gave Mikado something that can get him in trouble with the cops. Ran thinks manipulating Mikado is a tall order for him, and admits he has taken a liking to him, having seen Mikado just take the gift with no reaction. He even faked Ran for the gift and kept talking like nothing happened. At around the same time, one of Mizuki's men confirms to Mizuki that Shu and Ran have had contact. Mizuki asks his men to keep an eye on Mikado while he's following up on the Shu and Ran front, wondering what Shu has done. Nami is still in the chat room trying to get Mikado's attention, blaming him for what's going on with Seiji. However, Mikado is too focused on his mission, ignoring phone calls. We're at the halfway point with this next episode. Izia talks about how a few drops of acidic liquid can turn litmus paper red, while an alkaline liquid can turn it blue. At first, it's fun to mess around testing different liquids, but with only two outcomes, it can get boring. Humans can have many reactions, which excites Izia as much as learning about Sayaka's army setting up barriers from a dragon zombie member. With that photo, Izia decides to leave with Mikage to see someone, the person she needs to vent her energy on the most. Aoba tries to find out what Mikado and Ran talked about, not believing when Ran told Mikado to look out for Aoba. Mikado is a bit jealous of Aoba having a brother since he's an only child. Scanning the Dollar's message boards, Mikado is surprised to see that Nami is calling him out in the chat room for exposing Celti's head. Trying to hide his chat room name, Nami tells him to mobilize the dollars and go and find Shinra and Kasane, and that Satoru is behind everything. Mikado doesn't know what's going on at all, thinking Nami is scheming something. Well, she thinks he's scheming something. Whereas, Nami is just focusing her anger on the complete wrong person. Ruri and Maru stumble into the conversation, while include Aoba into the topic of conversation, so Nami starts revealing names and secrets, all while Izuya's narration enjoys Nami's reaction. Kurori compares Nami's outburst to that of a customer's log in a gaming arcade rife with interpersonal drama. Mikado asks Nami to stop destroying the place, but Nami said it was destroyed long ago. The news reports more on Verona's attack, knowing the attack was done when the explosive fired from a heavy firearm. Police have deployed officers throughout Ikebukuro, and Saburo checks the message boards, not understanding anything, but Walker is excited for a potential demon-filled Ikebukuro. Seeing all the craziness around him, Saburo realizes he's the only normal person in the apartment. And when you got the fan-obsessed person as the most normal person, you gotta be questioning things. Erika calls Saburo to tell him that Kyohei has snuck out of the hospital, most likely to settle the score with the one behind his hit and run. Kida and Chikage are still at the old Yellow Scars hideout, and Chikage tells Kida about how he bumped into Ari at the hospital. Chikage asks if Kida wants to go see Ari first, but Kida wants to keep her in the dark for now, and gets scolded by Chikage, who says that girls are stronger than boys, and that they know everything. As for Ari, having learnt Kida's secrets, leaves her apartment Saki to go meet with Celti to talk about something, but gets the voicemail instead. Shida and Shizuo come across Sayaka's traffic barriers, and when Shizuo spots the red eyes of Sayaka, they bust right through a barrier. Kasane and Satoru conduct business with Celti's shadow form struggling against the metal wires of Sayaka, with Satoru believing she's a Sayaka wielder. She's having Verona bring Celti's head to Celti, believing it will calm her down and return to her original form, and then she'll sever the connection between Celti's head and body once again, allowing them to claim the body. Shizuo has arrived on the scene, setting nebula employees bouncing off the walls and smashing into other employees like it's pinball, and rolling like Billy the Puppet from Saw. Like the legs. I wish I could show you what it looked like. I might use it for the thumbnail of the video. Because it's amazing. Just the visual of it. The knees and everything. At the same time, Izuya was enjoying the whole scene from above, wondering what liquid to drop onto the situation. Kasane explains that Shooter is a Cloistbodha, which is Irish for deaf coach, so I probably mispronounced that. I apologize. And that Shizuo is writing it to Satoru. Shizuo is angry at what they're doing to Celti, but Kasane describes her as a monster with no rationality and says that she's just a product to be sold. Yeah, right. Just by applying a little pressure to a building with his hand, Shizuo cracks the concrete and breaks a piece off to attack with because Celti is his friend. He doesn't care about Kasane's talk about monsters because he was called one by everyone when he was a kid, and Celti was the one that listened without interrupting. Kazane tries her charm on Shizuo, but Shito reminds him to save Celty. But Verona shows up ready to shoot Shizuo. We got ourselves a classic standoff. Kida and Chikage check out the chat room, reading Nami's outbursts of anger at Mikado. Verona reveals she's on a job from Kasane, and she will shoot Shizuo if he hurts Kasane, and that she attacked him back in April. Shizuo had already figured it out, and Verona asks why he didn't kill her, to which he answers he doesn't attack those he has worked with. She is confused by the conflict of personality Shizuo has shown, and he puts it as nothing makes sense when he loses it. Deciding against taking the easy kill, Satoru gets upset when Verona does a kill, making Shizuo turn on him. Verona does aim at Shizuo, but Kasane tells her to stand down, planning to leave Shizuo with Satoru. Spotting some odd construction activity, Verona shoves Shizuo out of the way of a bunch of metal I-beams, getting hit herself. Izzy then sends down a digger to try killing Shizuo again, but he endures the entire weight away with one shoulder, pushing it aside. It's like, dude can shoulder press a whole digger on one shoulder. Like, tells Verona he's going to do something that makes no sense, and Shizuo and shooter that he can kick his butt when Celtic goes back to normal. Climbing to the roof, he takes a call from Izia, who mocks him as a monster, saying that saving Verona is comical. Izia tries telling Shizuo how evil Kasane is, but Shizuo interrupts to say goodbye. If only our next episode was not something completely different, because we have hit the OVA episode. We're in episode 7.5. Behind the restaurant, a man is attacked for his money by two guys, which is witnessed by two waiters. The guys are about to attack them when the waiter with black hair mentions the name Shizuo, which makes them confuse Shizuo Nobusuma with Shizuo Hewajima. The narrator talks about fakes, about how they've been happening ever since Andy Warhol lined up copies of Campbell's soup label, saying that legitimate fakes are almost indistinguishable and low-quality fakes should still be enjoyable. I love how this anime predicted NFTs before NFTs existed. People are shown cosplaying as Sadao Mao from The Devil is a Part-Timer, Index from a certain magical index, and some other characters that I actually don't recognize, and neither does Google Lens recognize. However, the main focus is on Shizuo's fake, Shizuo Nobusuba, who decided to fake being the real Shizuo. He's deriving pleasure from intimidating people as he passes Cinema Sunshine, which is showing Samurai Flamenco, another example of fakes. Nobusuba gets the impression that Shizuo's appearance was spread by rumors, with how easy it is to intimidate others, not believing that Shizuo can throw vending machines. Trust me, you're gonna find out that he can. Nobusuba runs into Celty and decides to intimidate her for money, to which she pays and leaves with no problems, making Nobusuba happy. Celty tells Shinra about the fake Shizuo and that she unintentionally handed him money. She handed the money to Nobusuba because she knows he's going to be pummeled by the real Shizuo at some point. Some punks call Nobusuba out on his size, only realize they're messing with Shizuo, giving him an unopened can of juice. But they know it's the fake Shizuo, the juice being given the same treatment as Celty's money. Finishing the can of juice, Nobusuba unintentionally attacks Simon with the empty can, but Simon calmly picks it up and hands it back to Nobusuba. Simon notes that Shizuo's face is different, but Nobusuba plays it off as saying he's put on weight. He's then dragged into a rush of sushi by Simon to give him a lot of food to get the money out of Nobusuba for impersonating Shizuo. After finishing up a rush of sushi, Nobusuba runs into Tom and Verona doing business, and Tom mentions that the real Shizuo is taking a vacation day for his grandmother's memorial service. Nobusuba tries holding up Tom and Verona, but since they know the real Shizuo, Verona roundhouse kicks Nobusuba in the face. That easy. Questioning if he should continue impersonating Shizuo, Nobusuba comes across Izuya, who decides to mess with him, pretending to be Tsukumoya. Izuya asks for information on Shizuo, saying he'll fetch a high price, which Nobusuba falls for. Testing Nobusuba's knowledge of Shizuo, Izuya starts with the dollars, and Nobusuba knows they're colorless, with Izuya adding that Shizuo founded the dollars, bringing up the meeting of the $1 million members last year. Nobusuba's mind creates the wrong image of the meeting. Nobusuba accepts the claim that he founded the dollars, but gets stumped by Izuya mentioning the Headless Rider. Izuya says that Shizuo is also the Headless Rider, which Nobusuba claims as well. He continues his mockery of Nobusuba by asking to see Shizuo's actual job as a hired muscle, earning 100k yen per person he beats up. Taking Nobusuba to a random person, Izuya makes up a whole story just to see Nobusuba beat him up. Turns out the guy is the boss of a gang, and along with Izuya's disappearance, Nobusuba runs away in fear. Nobusuba plans to force everything upon the real Shizuo, and speaking of the real Shizuo, he's just returned from his grandmother's memorial. Not realizing it's the real Shizuo, Nobusuba tries intimidating him in Kasuga, damaging Kasuga's car. Shizuo picks Nobusuba up, spinning him and tossing him in the air before punching him through the air. That would hurt. That night, Izuya tells Nami about the fake Shizuo and how he got Nobusuba to punch a member of a fake Awakuzu group who was selling forgeries in a fake gallery. Izuya figured that by making the fake Shizuo work with the fake Tsukumoya to provoke the fake Awazu group, then they'll target the real Shizuo. The real Tsukumoya, full name Shinichi Tsukumoya, got back at Izuya by having someone impersonate Izuya in the cross-dressing competition. Several days pass, and Walker talks about it being the era of fakes, which Kyohei is surprised about since Walker and Erika only talk about manga and anime. Erika brings up the fake Shizuo, and they talk about that back when it happened. Kyohei then brings up the fake Awakuzu group and how Shizuo took them down, not knowing it was the fake one. Saburo mentions that some Dollars members saying that Kyohei extorted money from them, meaning there's a fake Kyohei out there. Erika and Walker are saying it's like Tetsuya Shiba from the Irregular at Magic High School, or Kyosuke Kosaka from Oromo, who are both voiced by Yuichi Nakamura, who is Kyohei's voice actor. Walker is suddenly attacked by the fake Kyohei, who is Nobusuba, but Erika and Walker just laugh in his face. Seeing the real Kyohei, Nobusuba tries attacking him, only to be defeated by Kyohei tripping him. Womp womp. He ends up tied in a red bondage rope using a technique called Shibari or Kinbaku, and is about to be tortured by Walker and Erika. Oh, yeah. Max gets an idea to hold a fake Kazuka audition to have a fake act as a fake Camila Sazor, but Kazuka rejects the idea. After a few more days, Nobusuba tries to impersonate Celty and intimidate her, only to get kicked in the face by her and demanding her money back. You can't impersonate really powerful people. You're gonna just end up getting kicked. Okay. Now that we've done the OVA, we're getting back to the actual anime. Back with episode 8. And Tom narrates about how Ikebukuro is always buzzing with activity, from people dating to people dying. But he doesn't care, heading to Russia Sushi to eat omakase or chef's choice. He spots Kine at Russia Sushi as well, unaware of the mass of psychers waiting outside. Meanwhile, Verona and Kasane follow after Shizuo, only to be stopped by Mikage, preventing them from climbing the stairs. Satoru is trying to crawl away from all the carnage and retrieve Celty's head, but Shingen gets the head first. Shingen was watching from the shadows as well, saying he almost peed himself out of being impressed by Shizuo. Taking Celty's head out of its container, Satoru tries to convince Shingen not to return her head to Celty by mentioning Shinra's love for Celty. However, Shingen has the worst throwing arm ever, so Igor steps in and uses his jacket like a sling, flinging Celty's head to her. Celty gets free of Kasane's Sayaka, her head looking around as she holds it. Izia asks her how she feels to have her head back, but she doesn't recognize him, so he tells her to leave. Saburo and Walker get ready to look for Kyohei, but it turns out that Kyohei came to Shinra's apartment looking for them, and painkillers and medicine, which you would have got at the hospital, but I guess less money spent. They scold Kyohei for leaving the hospital, but Kyohei doesn't care about his hit and run, more worried about Erika's safety. But the funny thing is, wasn't Erika at the hospital? Kyohei also came to Celty's apartment to talk to Celty because of the people who ran him over and more her expertise, revealing that the city is overrun with psychers. Tom is annoyed that both Shizuo and Verona didn't show up for work today, and he had a dismissal time making the rounds. A dismal time making the rounds. Simon talks to Tom on his way outside to start packing up, seeing the whole Psycho army and including Tom and Dennis in on it as well. One Psycho tries to attack Tom, but Simon saves him from his sharp nails and tosses the guy back. Sharp nails. Oh my gosh. Takashi is the one that wants to pull Tom into Sayaka's army, believing that Tom would be a trump card against Shizuo, having grown the Sayaka army so fast thanks to his experimentations into using teeth and nails as Sayaka. So wait, we got Sayaka-controlled zombies? He even has Haruna under his control, thanks to its experiment of attacking her with her own Sayaka. That shouldn't work. Right? Mikado isn't getting excited by sitting on the sidelines, while Tom narrates that something is happening behind the scenes because of what's going on with the dollars. Mikado realizes that he couldn't care less about what's going on, and that he doesn't feel like himself anymore, recalling everything that has led up to now. Tom's narration and Mikado's inner force interact with each other, with Mikado not wanting to die or become a murderer, but still practices with the gun Ran gave him. Flashing back to middle school, Shinra tells Izaya his fight against Shizuo yesterday was a blast, but Izaya just sees it as him surviving Shizuo's attack, showing the first time Izaya tricked Shizuo into being hit by a truck. Shinra says that Izaya would be interested since he likes humans, but Izaya claims Shizuo is not human, seeing him as a monster. Shiro wants him to get along, but of yesterday's incident, he knows there will be casualties and that one of them will die someday, but is perfectly fine with it as long as Celty is around. Using the saying, tigers die and leave their skins, people die and leave their names, Shinra describes Shizuo as a tiger and that he'll become an urban legend for his strength. Izaya lightly mocks Shinra's use of the saying, saying that Shinra will probably leave a legacy as a psychotic killer, which thrills him. It's like, I don't care what universe I'm in as long as I'm with my love interest. Presently, Shizuo reaches the roof, and the moment he reaches and opens the door, Izaya sets the roof on fire and drops an I-beam on Shizuo, which he punches away. Alongside this, Simon and Tom barricade Russia's sushi like it's Shaun of the Dead, all while the Psychers stand and watch. Kine explains to Tom about the Psyker army, but can't think of anyone who would want to surround Russia's sushi. This helps Tom realize that someone might want to get to him to get to Shizuo and Verona. Simon brings out the firepower to deal with Psychers if they get in, all of which are illegal in Japan. Henri is getting bombarded by the creation of so many new Psychers. That Saki asks if she needs a rest. Kita sees Nami's outburst in the chat room, and with everything going on so fast, Kita starts to get dizzy. Aoba races up to Mikado to tell him about everyone else talking about Kita, and that person tell him about someone else talking about Kita, and that person is Chikage. In the chat room, Chikage starts by chatting up Nami a bit before talking about Mikado ignoring a call from him. Chikage pretends to threaten more harm to Kita if Mikado doesn't call him back. Nami tries to take control of the chat room once again, but Chikage asks her how Seiji is doing, which drives her crazy. Oof. Mikage calls Chikage, and Chikage apologizes for not believing Mikado when he said he was the leader of the Dollars. Chikage lies and says that the Dollars messed with the Toramaru gang again, lightly kicking Kita's injured leg to get a reaction from Kita. They plan to meet downtown at the girls' school he confronted Kyohei in front of, where Chikage will hand Kita over to Mikado, setting up a chance for them to talk. Aoba tries to convince Mikado not to leave, but Mikado brings up that Kita is the leader of the Yellow Squares and the Blue Squares' enemy. Aoba states that he never brawled with Kita directly, meaning the Blue Squares has no grudge or affinity for Kita. Mikado mentions that Kita might not have a good opinion of Aoba. Asking about the location, Mikado explains it has great significance to him with the Dollars, but Henri and Kita were never there for it. Tom narrates that there is no difference between ordinary and abnormal, seeing everything that's going on as ordinary and wants to live a cheery, normal life. We have 4 episodes left to get through. So let's get into it with episode 9. Mizuki sits at a bar, bearing witness to the madness of Ikebukuro on his phone, all while trying to figure out where Sayaka went. Mizuki asks the bartender if he would have feelings for Sayaka if he went to save Anri, but the bartender knows that Mizuki is the one to not look away from danger. Anri and Saki reach Shinra's apartment, unaware of the massive destruction that has occurred. Checking the chat room, Anri sees the messages from Nami, and Saki chimes in on who's who. Surprised Anri didn't know. Nami, Seiji, and Mika come out of the front doors of the building and tell Anri that a lot has and still is going on. They're followed by the van group boys who are going to look for Erika right now. Kyohei tells Anri and Saki to leave town because Sayaka has returned with a massive army. Erika gets Walker's message to either hide at Shinra's or her own apartment, sending back that she's in trouble. She doesn't want to be attacked by the zombie Sayaka, instead rather getting slashed by Anri's Sayaka. One of the blue squares happens to be among the Sayakas, describing the situation to Aoba before he's turned into Sayaka and used to lie to Aoba. Takashi is happy to learn that Mikage, Chikage, and Kita are all coming to the same areas as the Sayakas, making it easy pickings for him. He tries ringing Kasane to find Shizuo's location, but she's currently busy fighting Mikage to answer. Kasane and Verona don't want to fight Mikage anymore, when Mikage says that this is probably the first time Izaya has gone all out to kill Shizuo. On the roof, Izaya mocks Shizuo by not paying attention to him and saying that he's decided to kill Shizuo by suffocation by carbon dioxide for a fitting death. Mizuki narrates how Izaya doesn't care if he dies, just as long as Shizuo dies for the protection of humans. Izaya lights a match and flicks it out onto Shizuo to cause a giant explosion that even Shinra sees, which Celti contains Shinra's ore. Flashing back to the legacy conversation between Shinra and Izaya, Izaya says he doesn't need to leave a legacy. If Shinra isn't going to be a tiger or a human, Shinra thinks about what he might become, landing on an enigmatic demon. In the chat room, Chikage shoots his shot with Kuri and Maru, but Kuri says they might be Netfestites. But Chikage can tell they're girls because he's read their posts, cluing them in that he's a player, which he doesn't deny. Chikage warns the twins not to leave their place until daybreak, mentioning something bad is happening in Ikebukuro. Going back to Shizuo's high school days, Shinra asks if he would be walking around. Shinra asks if he should be walking around so soon, but Shizuo wants to find Izaya to beat him up. Shinra warns him to keep a low profile so as to not get expelled from Raira and cause trouble for his parents. Shizuo believes that Shinra wouldn't need to lie, but Shinra states he would lie if the need arises, explaining that he'd lie to Celti just to be in love with her. Okay. Checking to see if he's killed Shizuo, Izaya discovers that he escaped the explosion by punching through the roof. That's when Shizue shakes the metal structure Izia is standing on enough to make Bolt fly out and send Izia flying. Or falling. But Izia will soon be flying, because as Izia falls, Shizue picks up an I-beam as the ultimate baseball bat and smacks Izia across the sky. Like, just a full-on baseball. Just da-da-da-da-da. Chikage and Kida come across the Psykers, and Chikage senses something wrong. Something wrong is going on, deciding to break into a building to reach the rooftop and check on the situation. Anri decides to reveal her Psyker secret, and that she's connected to the Slasher problem. Kida explains that the epicenter appears to be Russia Sushi, and Chikage notices that everyone's movements are mechanical in nature. Kida then spots the blue squares at the same time Takashi does, and tells Haruna to leave them alone for now, as to not create a window for Tom to escape. Takashi mentions how today's brats lack education, which annoys Hiroto. Neither Kida nor Takashi realize that Mikado isn't amongst them. Chikage goes to meet with the blue squares, telling Kida to stay on the roof as his trump card. Planning to rip off the blue square's mask so Kida can spot Mikado from the roof. Kida thanks Chikage for his help, but Chikage says not to thank him yet because it's too early to know, and that he might accidentally kill Mikado. Meanwhile, Minami heads to one of the hideouts used by Janai, who is currently at odds with Izia. After having stolen all the information on Izia's computers to give to Janai. However, he encounters Shinra leaving the hideout and questions him on if he knows Izia. Shinra answers that he and Izia are friends, but that he had it coming when Izia got stabbed. He asks Minami for a cell phone in order for someone to take him to see Celty. Minami walks Shinra to the road and asks what Izia dreads the most, getting him into a taxi. Shinra explains that Izia is never driven to despair when it comes to humans, and that he's probably more human than anyone else, with a fragile soul. And now, we've reached episode 10. As Anri narrates about how at some point in everyone's life they must stand up to something, and for her it's to stop Sayaka's children. She explains how Sayaka is ridden with the characters for sin and song, and that she doesn't know who the parent is for all the Sayaka. Anri's narration notes how Shizue and Izia are both fighting for something, and in the van, she shows everyone her Sayaka. Izia managed to survive his crash landing through an office window, awaiting his potential fate of death from above as Shizue jumps into the building a few floors above him. Remembering he came to kill Shizue, Izia makes a run for ground level to escape down past Igor and Shingen. Shingen tells Igor about how Izia is one of Shinra's few friends that also stabbed him, but Igor is more distracted by Shizue's leap right to Shingen's spot, saving Shingen. Spotting Izia, Naruto runs after him, sending eye beams in his wake. It's just like Shizue is just getting stronger and stronger each time you see him. Shingen and Igor are left to figure out what they are going to do with Satoru, who is disappointed with his failure of securing Celty and losing Celty's head. Igor believes this is how Shinra will react to Celty being reunited with her head, but Shingen says that Shinra will just see it as a challenge. Shingen wants to mess with Satoru by scribbling on his face before he comes back to his senses, but stops when he notices that Igor is being controlled by Anri's Psyker. Back in the van, Walker is eager to be controlled by Anri's Psyker just to have a superpower, and is willing to train an Adaijo Ayado Dojo to fight enemies better. And Anri tells Walker that wielding a Psycho will fuse him with Psycho's curse of loving humans, which turns Walker right off the idea. Saburo is amazed at Walker's clarity over his love for 2D waifus over actual humans. Yeah, you gotta love the waifus for the humans with Walker. Gohei asks if they can save Erika from the second Psycho, and Anri says that she can overwrite the second Psycho's curse with her own Psycho's curse. Or Psycho curse. Anri is surprised by how kind the Van Boys are, believing it to be their group connection, thinking about how she couldn't do anything in her friend group. Shinra has returned to his apartment, more focused on the sky than how wrecked the apartment is. He thinks back to when he and Celty were talking about Mikado, Anri, and Kita, and if they made it up. He notes that himself, Shizuo, and Izia were the opposite of Mikado, Anri, and Kita, seeing how they have their secrets unlike them. He compares Celty to Anri, saying that Celty wanted to stay a bystander to everything, and that she admits she didn't want anything to do with humans. Shinra embarrassed her with how straight he is with his love for her, trapping him in a black ball, which he finds more comfortable nowadays. Everyone in the fan is not scared of Anri, with Kyohei asking if she could say she's not human to Celty, who is less human than her. Kyohei says that no one is afraid of Celty because they know her, and tells Anri she needs more confidence in herself. Mika tells Anri to save her tears of joy for Mikado and Kita. Wait, I am so confused. Oh yeah. And Anri thinks to herself that she's going to bring Mikado and Kita into this connection, even if they don't want her to. The moment has brought her and Psycho closer together, with Anri thinking Psycho is happy that Anri has gained more friends, and that accept her existence. Oh, that Anri has gained more friends that accept her existence with Psycho. Okay, Ed. My brain is slowly cooking in this. Walker welcomes Anri to the guild, and mentions that Shinra got kidnapped, with Anri confirming it was Kasane. Unfortunately, Anri left Kasane's card back at her place, and Kyohei makes the decision to focus on saving Erika first. Anri remembers Erika got a card from Kasane as well, adding importance to finding Erika. Erika is stuck trying to think of a way to escape the Psychers, checking her purse to find that she has her red contact lenses, and fakes being a Psycho to escape detection. Actually, really smart. Meanwhile, Hirota is trying to spot Mikado amongst the blue squares, while Takashi explains he wants to use Mikado to smoke out Dunai and Kasane to kill them. Erika overhears his plan and realizes Haruna is involved, but thinks she has been infected. She is saved by Haruna getting a phone call from Anri that Takashi intercepts, asking her to come out. Learning that Haruna is calling him mother, she asks where he is, learning he's at Tokyo Hands. Takashi mentions that Mikado and Kita will also be showing up at Tokyo Hands, which he knows will freak Anri out into calling Mikado, and reveal who in the group of blue squares is him. Saburo checks the radio to learn that there's been accidents all around Ikebukuro, which is why there's traffic going to the city. Henri decides to call Mikado while Saki calls Kita, and at the same time, Chikage confronts the blue squares, only to get walloped on the back of the head. Chikage calmly stands up, saying that something's off after all when no one calls the cops on open violence. Punching a blue square across the street. Turns out that Mikado and Kita are on the same roof, receiving phone calls at the same time. In the chat room, Kurori and Maru talk about how it's the end of the chat room, but that the chat room might be back again in the future. Minami waits around Shinra's apartment to ask him more about Izia, where he's going now, and to which he says he's going to Celti. He knows Celti is still in Ikebukuro because the sky is as black as her, wanting to continue loving her. Minami says that what he's doing sounds like something a stalker would say, and Shinra says he has to do something far worse than punching or kicking her. Mikado and Kita chat to each other, with Kita bringing up his joke that Mikado ignored back then. But Mikado says he was lame that day. Mikado reveals that he figured out Kita and Chikage's plan, and that Chikage is probably finding the blue squares right now. He wants to show Kita a dollars meeting, saying that he's the leader of the dollars, unable to keep his promise to Henri. And we're getting to the these last two episodes get very serious now. So, our second last episode is here, and Kita is glad to finally meet with Mikado once again, having dreamed about meeting him again. Having even dreamed about meeting him again. At the same time, Izia, while injured, still has enough agility to dodge Shizuo throwing fridges at him. Henri is on her way to take her hands to find Erika. Mikage is still holding out against Verona and Kasane, and above it all, Shuda and Celti. Erika has managed to escape the Sayakas, calling Kasane to avoid the east side of Ikebukuro, and that Takashi mentioned her by name. Describing Haruna to Kasane and how she called Takashi mother, Kasane quickly figures out what's going on. Shingen stumbles upon the standoff between Mikage, Verona, and Kasane, recognizing Mikage through describing Jiro in the weirdest way possible. He wants to take Kasane's Sayaka for himself, but Kasane wants money for it. Verona just wants to meet with Shizuo, to which Shingen explains ran down alleyway. Oh yeah, Shizuo's just taken off down an alleyway after Izia, that's right. Chikage once again tries to get Aoba to understand the severity of the situation they are standing in. Aoba apologizes for underestimating the Toromaru gang, but when a biker gang shows up, Aoba reveals they are part of the Dollars, sending them a message that Chikage is an enemy of the Dollars. Takashi is also surprised by what's going on, but doesn't care since they'll be part of his army. Mizuki also has his men observing the madness, saying that almost all of the prominent gangs from the Kanto region are there. Mikage has also managed to pull people in from Chiba and Saitama, explaining how he made people like them leave the Dollars, but instead turned to leaking information on bad Dollars to pull them in line. Kita notices the gun Ran gave Mikado, explaining why he has one, not understanding Mikado's plan. However, Mikado's plan is simple: to put an end to the dollars, but not disband them, and wanted Henri and Kita to see what he made the dollars. Mikado was originally happy with the thrill he got from his crazy actions, but changed his mind to make Ikebukuro a place to welcome Kita and Henri to. He tells Kita what Izia told him after the first meeting of the dollars, confirming that Izia was right. Kita yells that Izia does that to people for fun, only to have Mikado point his gun at him. Mikado doesn't even know who he's going to shoot between Kita and himself, and Kita says to just throw it away. Erica is reunited with the van group, but she forgot to take out her red contacts, making Walker think she's a psycho, until she explains they're her contact lenses. The news has reported on the now multiple shootings at the police station and Dogen's home. A spray-painted message related to the dollars was found at Dogen's house, making the police believe the attacks connected. She was upset that someone attacked Dogen's house and wants to cut off some fingers, wanting his men to find Mikado, while Mizuki has shown up to talk with Shu. Mikado is proud that the dollars will no longer exist as an entity by having made the dollars look like one of the worst things that happened to Ikebukuro. He wants to turn them into an urban legend, one that will be reborn over and over, which is why he attacked the police station and Dogen's house. Kita just wants a fair fight against Mikado, wanting to drag Mikado into his ordinary life he hates. Designed to attack, Kita charges Mikado as Mikado fires around Akita, which everyone hears. The shot that rang across the entire town. Izia's escape has led right to the Dollars meeting, running into Chicago and providing a concise description of the situation. Kazane blocks Shinra's path to Celti on a bridge, but she says she's not there to kidnap him again. She explains that she believes Shinra was feigning love for Celti just to keep her close as a specimen. Her research revealed his love for Celti was true, and that's why she chose Shinra to kidnap, to make someone love her out of jealousy. Shinra can't bring himself to be furious at Kasane, but he also can't love her the way she loves him. He's going to prove that he and Celti can be in love like anyone else, and tells Kasane to cherish someone, even if it's herself. Out of nowhere, Ran attacks Saburu's fan, and perhaps he caught the Dream Team, with Nami being the first to recognize him. Ran doesn't let Kyohei get out of the van, nor the women or children, prepared to destroy the van with his goons. Walker has managed to slip away from the van, though, and Ran spots Saki when checking the van for him. Ran says he has Mikado to thank for giving him everyone together, saying that Mikado is the leader of the Blue Squares. The bullet Mikado got off only grazed Kita's cheek, allowing Kita to get the upper hand and kick Mikado's butt. Through tears, Kita punches Mikado repeatedly, saying he can't make Henri sad by leaving them behind in a way he can't come back from. But Mikado says the dollars can't be stopped, revealing a second minigun and shooting Kita's leg. Mizuki confronts Shu about giving Mikado the gun as a scheme to bring down the dollars, telling Shu to stop and let him deal with the dollars. He knows that Shu wants to take over the dollars after eliminating Mikado and replacing him with someone of his group. However, the gun that was fired at the police station and Doga's house were of a smaller caliber than what Shield is in. Mikado explains the design of the literal handgun to Kita, how it was designed by a US terrorist years ago. And I don't want to spoil, but it does make an appearance in another anime. Which will be our next anime. Hiroto figures out Mikado was the one that fired the shot, but Takashi is more freaked out by Shizuo being out of prison, wanting the psychics to get to Tom in Russia Sushi right now. Shizuo kicks someone that tries to attack him straight into a poster for Yuta no Prince Sama's mobile game, Shining Live. Walker returns to the van before Ran can start destroying it. I'm standing there with what looks like a fire extinguisher, but is actually a flamethrower. Gohei, Saburo, and Walker all tell everyone that's not part of the van group to go help Mikado, making the fight a 4 versus 7. Mikado is amazed he managed to shoot Kita, saying that if it's for his own selfish reasons, he could shoot Henri too. And from there, he'll do even worse things to make trouble for everyone, preparing to end it all for himself. Kita promises that if Mikado goes through with it, he'll kill Izya even if it takes his entire life. Mikado says he's weirdly excited to see what his next life holds. Pushing the gun to his head. Oh, all he has to do is close his fist and that would be it. I'm taking the helmet off for this last one because, like, there's no need for the helmet. We're at the last episode. Izaya and Shizuo had their final show-off in the middle of the psycho-filled Ikebukuro, with Izaya letting knife strikes on Shizuo. Aoba watches the fight, knowing that Izaya looks down on Shizuo as a monster, knowing this because he's exactly the same. Takashi is so focused on getting everyone inside Russia Sushi turned into psychos, but didn't expect the flash grenades and the counter-assault from them. Izaya gets distracted by the burst of light, allowing Shizuo to land hits on him that sent Izaya falling over. Dragging the vending machine once again, Shizuo prepares to flatten Izaya with it, but Verona gets the surprise attack on him to prevent Shizuo from becoming a real monster. Shizuo tells her not to kill Izaya, but she reveals she has killed many before, with Izaya soon to just be a number in her stats. Tom sees Shizuo, and Simon stops Verona from killing Izaya with a flash grenade. With the Russia's sushi group escaping, Takashi decides to just turn everyone into psycho zombies, leading to mass riots between the psycho army, the dollars, the blue squares, and everyone else. The mass riot is then suddenly stopped by Celty raining her shadows on everyone, trapping them in place. Celty's shadow rain also saves Mikado from death, hearing that she wants to atone for all the chaos her body has caused. Her shadows removed the pellets from Kia's leg and Mikado's head, even though it didn't really get that far. And Celty talks to Mikado directly to not grasp hope beyond death. Shizuo recovers from the flash grenade to see Verona is unconscious and being cared for by Simon. He's confused to see the psychos held down by Celty's shadows before spotting Shinra hobbling down the street. Celty says that the battle going on was caused by her body, and that it pains her that it brought on human death. Mikado says the situation is his fault, not hers, but she words it as his encounter with her in the first place brought this about, along with everyone else's interactions with her affecting them. Anri says that Celti also saved people like her, but Celti explains she's just a system serving a higher power to notify chosen people of their deaths. She prepares to leave back to Ireland and resume her duty, but Shinra reaches the rooftop to call her a liar. Shuda refuses to leave, and Shinra quotes Celti's explanation of how she works, revealing she is lying. Shinra calls her out on feigning total amnesia in the hope he'll give up, but it seems she doesn't remember him. She continues saying what she's thinking, and saying she's too kind to the point she wraps him up in shadows. Shizuo arrives at the scene on the roof, and Shinra reminds him of their promise from high school, asking Shizuo to throw him at Celti. Literal cannonball moment. Celti talks to Shuda about why she has to leave Ikebukuro, saying if she stayed, she only caused more suffering for humans. She's suddenly shocked by Shinra flying past her, going to catch him, which allows Shinra to sever connection between Celti's body and head, again, using the Sayaka he got from Kazune. All her memories come back again, and after saving Shinra, she punches and shakes him for doing something so stupid, saying he could have died. Which, yes, he did it for love. That was the whole point. Everyone walks away from the roof as Mikado talks about how he wanted someone to see him as evil and stop him. Anri reminds Mikado of the promise that they made to share their secrets with each other, with Kita saying Mikado should go first. Mikado notices Takashi charging from behind, pushing Anri aside to save her, taking Asaka to the chest multiple times. Somehow Chikage is the only one not tied up by Celti's shadows outside the main cast, which he's totally confused by. Like, what? Huh? How does that work? Haruna sends a message to Shuji saying she's with Takashi. Izaya was saved by Kine and Minami, and she asks him to take him far from Ikebukuro. Emilia reports to Shingen that Celti's head is being retrieved and sent to Chicago as a special human specimen. Shingen offers Nami a spot at Nebula to work with Celti's head. Mika and Seiji are also heading to Chicago, with Seiji surprised Mika told him in the first place, viewing Mika as family at least, because he's still in love with Celti's head. Kisuke tries killing Ruri himself using a truck, but gets saved by Kasane literally jumping into the situation and grabbing her. Kasane says she's jealous of Ruri, and decides to take away Ruri's chance to atone for her crimes as Hollywood, grabbing Kisuke and leaping away. A few days pass and everything has returned to Ikebukuro's level of normal. The van group having survived their fight against Ran and his goons, Marikuri and Akane wrapping up their lesson at Rakue Gym, and Verona and Sloane return to Russia and say goodbye to Shizuo and Tom. Shinra and Celti ride around town with him, asking if she has the head's memories now, but Celti says she doesn't care about that. Konosuke interrupts their moment to tell Celti off for parking on the road, leading to Celti taking off and Konosuke giving chase. Classic. Going back to when Takashi stabbed Mikado, Anri tried stabbing Takashi with her Sayaka, only to be stopped by Haruna's Sayaka. Takashi runs in fear from Haruna, and Erika spots Takashi, who Saburo runs over in return for being involved in Kyohei's hit and run. Turnabout's fair play when it comes to hit and runs, apparently. Takashi survives the hit and run, only to wake up chained in one of Izuya's hideouts, with Haruna there to look after him physically. we got Carmen. He got Carmen so hard he ended up in that situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Mizuki confronts Aoba to warn him against messing with Mikado like he did this time. And Aoba says they both have no plans involving Mikado. But Mizuki tells him to go home. Talking with Ari, Mizuki asks if he likes Mikado. Or if she likes Mikado. And she says she does. Not 100% certain, but she does. While unconscious, Mikado doesn't know what life he'll wake back up to, and if there's a point to anything he did, and why he came to Ikebukuro in the first place. He wakes up to Kita and Anri being there to hold his hand, welcoming him back to reality. Myra and Kuri close out the show to say goodbye to the chat room and to the audience. Oh, such an insane anime. I'm amazed I got through this in 5 weeks of recording. I'm also glad that I got this completed for the podcast as well. It's such an amazing project that I did. Anyways, and I'm gonna be for the next anime. The next anime is actually going to be Bakudo, which is in the same universe as Durarara. I hope to see you there for that when that comes around. Not next week, the week after. Next week I'll be doing the roll call for Durarara for Bakudo. And I'm just looking forward to covering that one because it's a much shorter anime. I need a shorter anime to cover now because my throat hurts. However, so for YouTube, links will be in the description to both the channels and to Twitch for you guys. Go check out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when next video comes out. A ding, and Psychrafter out.